On this episode of AV Week, the safety procedures AVIXA is putting in place for InfoComm 2021 happening this fall. Also taking a look at one of the first AV trade shows to hit the stage and discrimination in the industry. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 510, recorded Friday, May 28th, 2021. Coaching Moment.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sennheiser. For over 75 years, Sennheiser has been a leader in pro audio and is now offering a wide variety of touchless and traditional audio solutions for both corporate and educational campus-wide audio.
And by
Atlona, the go-to provider for AV signal distribution and control in corporate, higher education, and residential spaces.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright, your host, with us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, and we have a couple of doozies, let me tell you. First and foremost, Erica Williams from Henderson Engineers, just down Highway 70 from me. Welcome, ma'am.
Welcome. Hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. A gentleman I haven't seen in a year and a half in person. He's one of my favorite Tims. Including myself, Tim Trost, from Middle Atlantic / LeGrand AV. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
Good to see you. And a young man I met virtually a year ago, and now he works for one of my buddies, Mr. John Ivey over at Atlas IED. Executive Vice President Matt Krzyzewski from Atlas IED. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Good to be here.
All right, thanks so much. First story comes to us, and it kind of blew up on the Twitters, as the kids say. This actually comes to us from the dailymail.co.uk, which I believe is the first time I've ever uttered that on AV Week. A first story from the Mail. An employee of Exertis over in the UK is suing the distributor for £6.6 million, roughly $9.4 million US, for racist abuse and discrimination. The 36-year-old has already won claims of racial discrimination. He was allegedly told he was, quote-unquote, the only ethnic on the team, and called a, quote-unquote, temperamental Syrian immigrant who was working for ISIS. Among other insults, he is alleging he was referred to as an Arab shoe bomber. A tribunal in the UK had found 3 of his coworkers did indeed racially harass him. We did reach out to Exertis for a comment. This is what they had to say. The quote-unquote, the employment tribunal decision relates to Exertis and a breach of the Equality Act 2010 within a specific area of the business. When the complaint was made 4 years ago, a full internal investigation took place, resulting in disciplinary action. We fully respect the tribunal's decision and take the findings extremely seriously. This was a unique case across a business of more than 1,800 employees. However, it was clear that certain behaviors fell significantly below the standards we expect. Our response and ongoing commitments to invest heavily in increasing awareness in relation to diversity will ensure that this should not happen again. Tim, I'm going to start with you. You and Matt both work for multinationals, Legrand, headquartered in Paris. When you look at diversity and inclusion policies and training, what else can a corporation do to ensure something like this doesn't happen? And if it does, it's handled, I don't know, a little bit more quickly or a little bit more swiftly than it appears, at least, this took place.
Yeah, it's a heartfelt story. I mean, you feel for the guy just having this experience. We, being a European-based company, have woven in our fabric DEI and CSR. It's part of our metrics. It's part of our financial targets as an organization, and we make commitments on an annual basis to continually improving the workforce and our ability to support and include people of all sorts of backgrounds. So, it's a tough one, and unfortunately, having had some of our own different types of issues surface in the past, I think the point you make about urgency, speed, and responsiveness of the organization is what, from the outside looking in, you want to see as a company, especially in the industry where we're actively pursuing and trying to drive it. But internally within the organization, it starts with the team members. It starts with the people. If you see something, say something. Kind of that adage, and the magnitude in which this has transpired. You got to think about the culture in the organization and how they respond to things.
Erica, nobody can see you, but you are nodding your head. So I'm going to go to you next. I'll point out the fact that 3 of the employees were found to have harassed this young man. One of those, though, was his direct supervisor, right? And these the other 2's supervisor. When you look at a story like this, what does that say to you about kind of the inclusion of the industry and what we have still yet to learn?
Well, I mean, honestly, it says a lot. And like Tim said, it comes down to the employees. I'm sure most of us can say that we've seen our organizations making DE&I pledges, and we're putting out infographics and emails about all these changes that we're making and everything else. But when it comes down to it, leadership isn't going to solve this problem alone. Creating policies obviously help. And honestly, in that statement that they had to say that the behavior fell below their standards and whatnot, I'm not familiar, obviously, with European law, but I mean, it's a zero tolerance policy. Like, you can't say that their behavior fell below your expectations. That's a zero tolerance thing that people need to start upholding and saying the right words to vocalize that. Because the way that sounds, it just makes me think they're just going to let let it happen again, and they're just going to get a smack on the hand for it. And that's where it trickles down actually to the employees. You're right, absolutely, Tim, that if you see something, say something. And we've seen in companies and in society and just so much over the last year that people need to stop waiting for someone else to do something. People need to take action, because the worst action is inaction. Don't be afraid to speak up. And, in this guy's case with the supervisor, like a company of 1,800 people, you're telling me that every person in that company or every person in that unit that he worked was okay with what was happening? I find that very unlikely. So, check your employee handbook. What is the order? What is the order of reporting? If it's the supervisor that's doing something wrong, then what's the next step? Don't just wait for somebody else to do it. You have to speak up and take action. And, honestly, if you go through all the motions at the office and stuff still isn't happening, put them on a shame board, put them on Twitter so people know, we've done this. That recently happened with Google, actually. There was a woman, I think she was part of the marketing department and suffered from all kinds of discrimination. And then she said, you know what, I'm taking the social so people know. Like, don't do business with those people, because they obviously don't have a culture that sounds very good, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't work there, but it doesn't sound good. And those aren't the kinds of people that I would want to do business with. That's not the type of business that I want to reflect poorly on my business culture. So
you actually bring a really good point up about not doing business with them. We'll point out the fact that Exertis has expanded over the years. This past fall stampede here in the States and in North America, they had already been purchased by Exertis previous, but they transferred their name from Stampede to Exertis to give more of a global outreach for that name, as opposed to Midwich, who does own a number of distributors, including our friends at Starin here in the States. Matt, talk for a second. What can we do with a moment like this to use it as a teaching moment or a coaching moment for your employees, but also for, your representatives? I mean, America makes a point. Exertis is a distributor. So in some sense, they are a representative of the brands that they carry, right? So how can we use this as a coaching moment for manufacturing and all the way through the chain?
Well, I think Erica made and Tim made some great points, and how that can be utilized as a teaching moment is just looking at the culture. I mean, we all go into distributors, for example, from a manufacturer standpoint, and we talk a lot about business, but observing the culture itself is also important. And simply listing things in a policy isn't very good if you don't have a culture that has openness, meaning you can go to, it doesn't matter who you go to, whether it's the CEO's office or the COO or wherever you need to go to voice a complaint. That has to be the biggest thing, is that type of stuff. We may list, and probably many, especially these days, many companies list what is not tolerated. But do you have an open door policy so that people feel safe and can go and talk to folks and know something's going to happen to correct the situation? Because it's really hard for me to say that with that size company that only 4 people knew about this action going on. So more people had to know. Therefore, the other people that knew about it that weren't necessarily involved clearly didn't feel safe or correct or whatever in reporting it to somebody else, which is not acceptable at all for anything in a company, that when someone's doing wrongdoing that they shouldn't be, and in this case egregious. So that's how I think we can all learn from, is look at it, check the culture, and when you're going into businesses, check their culture and understand when you walk away. I don't care if they can do millions of dollars, might not reflect well with our company if they're representing us.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Is there comes a point in time where money doesn't have doesn't play no effect. This is more about treating people right. Absolutely. All right, our next story comes to us actually from our friends over at SCN and our buddy Megan Dutta, who we would get to hang out with on June 17th at the AV3 event. Mitchell will put a link on that if you're interested in registering for that. Megan sat down with Senior Vice President of Exhibition and Event Services at AVIXA, Rochelle Richardson, about the upcoming InfoComm show, and she goes through a number of different questions, asking Rochelle about things like making sure that or asking the question is whether or not AVIXA is going to hold to the CDC recommendations, such as masks and social distancing, what they're doing with cleaning protocols. Obviously, AVIXA doesn't clean the system; the Orange County Convention Center does, but Orange County has a global biorisk advisory council, and they are assessing everything coming down to all the way to the fact that there's going to be more food locations. Just for the record, that is the one thing I am most excited about. Just for the record, as somebody who's gone to a number of these, and Matt and Tim are laughing at me because they know exactly what I'm going to talk about. You stand an hour in the line for a cold slice of pizza. Anyhow, Erica, we'll start with you on this. Does what Rochelle's talking about, does that make you more comfortable, less comfortable? Does it ease any concerns about getting back in person come October?
I wouldn't say necessarily one way or the other. I mean, for me personally, I didn't have concerns. I'm already planning on trying to go anyway. I think that we're just going to see this a lot, whether it's a trade show or a concert venue or anything like that. People have to they have a checklist they have to follow. They have to follow the checklist on, what is being required of us by law and what are we seeing as public reaction, so that way we can try to get people to be here, as many people as we can. It sounds to me like they're planning on following the rules and doing the right thing and keeping things clean and making people feel safe. So, I mean, I think it's good. And I think we should probably get used to seeing more stuff like this moving forward.
Matt, same kind of question. As the executive vice president of Atlas, you're going to be responsible for a number of folks, including a booth at InfoComm. So, what are the steps here that make the most sense or make you most comfortable heading down to Orlando come October?
Well, in general, certainly the vaccination levels I think are making us all a little more comfortable. And then reading through what InfoComm or instructing the contractors that work there as well, with the cleaning protocols and so on, and adhering to whatever the local laws are, or rules, I should say, regarding this. Certainly that makes us feel more comfortable. And honestly, if we think back to, it feels like it was 10 years ago, when a lot of us we attended ISE, and just thought, okay, this thing's in China, we should be okay. And most of us came back and we didn't get sick, not even a common cold, which is very uncommon after you go to a trade show. But what did we do different? I went with talked to a number of colleagues afterwards, the show, about not being ill after coming back from ISE, and regardless of COVID. And one of the things we all did, we sanitized our hands like crazy. We washed our hands. We did, you shook someone's hand, you no one took offense to it, or you didn't shake hands, or you didn't hug, or whatever. So I think, looking back on that experience, the steps that InfoComm or I should say AVIXA is talking about implementing at InfoComm all make sense, and will actually just, I think, be healthier in general. So that we don't get the trade show crud afterwards, even if there wasn't COVID-19 around. I just think, it makes sense, and it looks like, I like the thoughtfulness behind it.
Just for the record, I am a hugger, so y'all feel free to hug me whenever you want. I don't. I did it all during ISE too, just even though it drove Joey Lloyd crazy. Joey's from AVIXA, and they had rules during that. So anyhow, Mr. Trost, you've been around the world actually with me for Legrand's various installations at trade shows. Mm-hmm. You guys, not so you specifically, but you guys will actually head to your first trade show in September by way of CEDIA in Indianapolis, the Resi side of Legrand. What Rochelle's talking about, what does that give you as someone who has been to these shows, most likely will be in Orlando come October? What makes the most sense, and or what are areas that maybe that they're not thinking of yet?
Well, I'm going to go on record and say a very close number 2 to availability of food is the expectation of clean bathrooms. So, I think that in and of itself should be something that sticks for the long haul at some of these events. But, I think 4 or 5 months in the future is just too far to tell. Many of us were surprised by the mask mandate change. Even the president admitted he was surprised by the CDC's announcement. So looking forward that far into the future, I think the most important piece I gather from the communication is there's a heightened sense of awareness, and there is an expectation and accountability that our industry trade associations are taking to people's health and well-being. And they will monitor, they will manage, and they will hold the standards at a bare minimum to local regulations, rules, expectations, call them what you will, to ensure people's safety. Enforcing them is not going to be easy. I mean, we look at what it's like just in our daily lives now that we want to go out to a store, visit a mall, go to a restaurant, and there are varying degrees of comfort with being in close proximity to others. And, these shows, as much as they are domestic shows, still do garner a % of international participation. And, we've got to manage through that and handle the expectations of people, not only domestically, but globally. So it will change how we manage and how we operate in shows, but there always has to be a first one, right? And you've got to get the first one under your belt, experience it, and take the necessary precautions, and we'll evolve collectively as a company and as an industry, and see what the future holds. But trade shows won't look or feel the same in the future, that's for sure.
All right. Actually, on that note, on you have to be the first one from Sonic Communications, cavlo, a trades only event for members of the Pro AV community, happened May 13th, just a couple weeks ago. Several colleagues and friends were there. Joe Way was there doing a panel. Mark Coxon Matt, your team was there. Atlas was there. Shore, Digico, Nanolumens, Aurora Multimedia, a number of folks. Mike Brown Sestero put this on, and he was actually looking to do this last year. He's been trying to do this for probably about a year now. First time out, it was they had 400 people registered, 200 people showed up, according to Mike. Matt, we'll start with you on this. Do we look at stuff like this and more local, more regionalized, smaller shows popping up throughout the country where, Mike and his team, he's a local integrator, he does kind of an independent show, or kind of like some distributors who have kind of, regional shows around the country. Do we see that happening more and more as we come out of COVID?
Definitely. I think we're going to see a trend there. This is just kind of spitballing there because that show, so the folks that we had attend spoke very highly of how that went. Good. And I don't want to take us off subject on that a lot, but there was actually a PSA show, I think about 3 weeks prior to that in Denver.
Yes.
That was also, we were also there, also very well attended. And not meaning that it was, thousands of people necessarily. It was the folks that were there were the principals. They were the people that were really able to make decisions. And I think that's what we found in Vegas as well. So I think these smaller targeted shows could take hold because it's smaller attendance, it's regional, easy to get to. I don't have to fly all the way across the country and so on. And, so I definitely see it as being viable going forward.
Yeah. Tim, same kind of question. Matt made the point there. You don't have to fly all around the country. This also gives your regional reps and your regional folks, whichever direction you go, whether you have actual rep firms or you have, direct representation from employees, your regional folks to actually come and build relationships there within their region, so they're able to, kind of connect with the folks that they're servicing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different. And if I take a step back to the last, discussion, we'll see what transpires at these large national and global events like CEDIA and ISE and what the attendance looks like. And I'm sure all the manufacturers and the industry at large is going to pivot and adjust to what people feel comfortable with, what works from a local and a global perspective. But there's another, I think, added dimension here I would add, and that's the cost to travel. When I look at a ticket now, I used to be able to go coast to coast for $300. It's $700 right now, and with inflation in food and hotels and that sort of thing, I think that's another backdrop to us gathering as an industry at these large events, and it might drive more local and regionalized activities, whether they be individual organizations or AVIXA and CEDIA and others, putting them on to help continue the interaction and continue the evolution of AV, because as we know, it's going to be and has played a critical piece in the success of the world and the economy through the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Erica, Tim mentioned the fact that, it's cheaper to do regionally. We're sitting here. By the time this posts, ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, will be happening in a much different way than it has in the past. It is going in person in Barcelona as well as digitally. It is currently scheduled to go ahead in London in a couple of weeks. They did have to cancel both the Germany and the Amsterdam shows, but again, more regionalized is what they were looking at. Does that make sense where it's and I kind of joke that Erica's just down Highway 70 from me. She's in Kansas City. I'm in St. Louis. Literally, I could go have lunch with her, right, on pretty much any given day.
Just bring emails.
3.5, 4 hours, right? And we still haven't, just for the record, but we could. But that's the thing is right, if there's a show in Kansas City, I could certainly get up in the morning and drive over and it'd be a long day, but it could be an easy day trip, right? So does that make sense as we kind of come out of this? Or are you looking more for the bigger shows where it kind of brings everybody together, or maybe a mix of both?
So I'm a little conflicted with it. Tim definitely made a good point with the flights. I mean, not only are you paying almost double, if not more, you can hardly find direct flights anymore. You have, 1, 2, 3 layovers, it seems like. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. So I think it depends on where you are. Being in the Midwest, the types of manufacturers and exposure and stuff that we get here isn't as large as what they might get on the coast. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about InfoComm was that I got to see all the smaller vendors who have the little niche products that, I've been looking for, but haven't been able to find because there's no representation here. It's not carried here and whatnot. So on the other hand, though, the regional ones, we have an integrator who did one right before the stay-at-home orders happened. And it was great because, they had NEC there and they had Logitech and like all these different manufacturers, but they're all people that, they come into our office regularly and we have lunch and learns. There were a few other companies that I hadn't been able to meet before, so that was nice. But it's nice in the BD and that perspective. So I do like that. I like that people can come together, talk about new products, do all that stuff. But there's something about the larger events that you're gonna get more. And living in the Midwest, sometimes you don't Google things with the right words, and so you don't find them. And it's nice to be able to have a place to go to explore that.
Yeah, absolutely. My buddy Don Mead loves those little 10x10 booths in the back 40. That's like that is all her entire last day of InfoComm. That is what she does, and she's found some really, really interesting things over the years. So
yeah. And to that point too, we have the digital signage that we use in our offices is a company based out of Lenexa, Kansas, and Kansas City. And their product is amazing. I love it. It's so easy. Their customer service is fantastic. And they're in one of those little 10x10 booths back in the corner. And it's like, if you just take the time and you do go and check stuff out, it's the hidden treasure, in my opinion. The big displays are cool, but it's those little things that make the difference.
Is that Key West?
Yes.
Which is just crazy. The fact that a company called Key West is in Kansas. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. And no joke, their CEO walks around in flip flops and jeans for meetings and stuff. Like he lives it. It's hilarious. It's awesome.
It is, and it is a really good product too. So, all right, guys, thanks so much, Mr. Trost. How do people connect with you or Legrand?
I'm out on the socials, LinkedIn, Twitter at Timothy Trost, or check us out at legrandav.com.
All right, very good. Erica, thank you so much, ma'am. How do people connect with you?
I definitely recommend checking out HendersonEngineers.com. HendersonEngineers.com. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on, and we're always looking for great talent. So I think you'd really enjoy it if you want to check us out. For me, you can find me on Twitter at HaircutFW, LinkedIn. I'm there as well. Hopefully we can connect.
Absolutely. Matt, thank you so much, sir. You did a fantastic job your first time, so I appreciate it. How do people connect with you or Atlas IED?
Atlas IED, you can find us on the web at atlasied.com. We have a great search portal. If you want to find our products, it's there. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
All right, very good. And also check out their the brand new version of Atmosphere 2.0.
Yes.
I have
1.2.
1.2. I'm sorry, 1.2. There you go. Just because I'm an idiot. 1.2, but that is the product that we had with them here in St. Louis last year. And 1,000 memes of me was born out of that. So there you go. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Couple things coming down the pipeline. Check out Matt Scott's show, AVWeek. We're starting our conversations about and surrounding CEDIA happening the first week of September in Indianapolis. We'll talk about that, as well as we are rolling out a couple of new things. Check out our XR Star, which looks at the alternative augmented reality and virtual reality using in the AV. So check all that out and more. Also check out our sponsors. These are the folks who help us bring you AVWeek and ResiWeek and all the others, and Legrand and Atlas IED are both one of those. So thank you guys both so much for your support. So all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.